SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Looking for an affordable new home? Wyndham Mobile Homes is what you need. Discover all our spacious models, perfect for every lifestyle. Your dream home is waiting. Visit Wyndham Mobile Homes in Corinth today or online at wyndham-homes.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby.
Good morning. Middle of the week, Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, the 12th of November. Glad to be with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Streaming online at supertalk.fm. SuperTalk TV, of course, on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations. We're glad for you to join us. Glad for you to be part of the conversation today. Best way for you to do that is on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Been telling you for, a week now, maybe a week and a half, that C Spire already has their Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals available on their website, ready to go. cspire.com is the website. Like the new iPhone 17 Pro. Free with trade-in. Get yours today at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. MRC is brought to you by Community Bank. Find them online at communitybank.net. It really is crazy, the difference in what it feels like outside this morning and what it felt like outside 2 mornings ago. Monday morning when we started this week. Told you it was coming, though. Told you it was going to warm back up in a hurry, and it certainly has. Lance, good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah, it's like 45 here. It's nice.
Yeah.
Very pleasant morning, you know. It was not the 30 walking in the door, but I kind of liked it yesterday. It was very inspiring and brisk. It was in the 20s there for you guys, so it was getting a little bit less inspiring and you get into the 20s, I think.
Yeah. We're at 41 this morning, and oh no, I'm not. That's in Green Bay, Wisconsin, that's
pretty balmy for Green Bay, though.
Yeah, so that's actually not too bad for Green Bay this time of year. I think I was looking up the weather for Monday Night Football the other night. Yeah, 44 this morning in Oxford. Going to get up to nearly 70 degrees today, and it was 24 a couple of days ago.
Yeah. You reported like 24 yesterday morning. So
yeah. Como, Mississippi, right outside of Senatobia, there in Tate County. Mostly sunny for you, 69 degrees for a high today with winds out of the west and southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Louisville, you're going to bump 70 degrees, light winds. A little farther south of Jackson and Crystal Springs, sunny along with a few clouds this afternoon. 74 degrees for your high. Loosedale, southeast part of the state, 74 there as well with winds out of the southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and really kind of looks like this is where we're going to settle for the next several days from a temperature standpoint. Most of the state going to be low to mid 70s for the remainder of the week and into the early part of next week. We're almost to the point where you can get over to the Thanksgiving Day forecast.
almost there, yeah.
Not quite, but getting close. Just another, depending on how your long range forecast is formatted, how long a range it is,
and how reliable.
Well, yeah. Yeah, there's that, too. Harry Blackmun was born on this day in 1908. Who is he? Well, he was a lawyer, a jurist, and the 100th Supreme Court Justice. Served for 25 years, from 1970 until 1994, and he is the justice that authored the court's opinion in Roe v. Wade, born in Nashville, Illinois. Of course, an opinion that has since been overturned by the Supreme Court. The beautiful and great actress Grace Kelly, born in 1929, Rear Window, she's Princess of Monaco, born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Al Michaels, legendary sportscaster with ABC, born in 1944. He's called so many events through the years, World Series. He was on the microphone for the famous Earthquake World Series in the Bay Area between Oakland and San Francisco. Ended up winning an Emmy for news reporting because of his love of flying and aerial photography. His commentary and his narration of what you were seeing from helicopters and some aerial shots while he was calling the World Series for ABC News was really, really spectacular. Super versatile broadcaster. And, of course, his most famous call of all was from the semifinals of the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics, United States and Soviet Union. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. Neil Young, born in 1945, 80 years old, Canadian-American singer, songwriter, guitarist, and organ player. Born in Toronto.
He doesn't like the Southern man
talented.
too much. He doesn't like the Southern man too much, though, you know.
Yeah.
And Leonard Skinner, they told him what he could do with that.
Well, I appreciate them doing that. Nadia Comaneci, or Comaneci if you prefer. Born in 1961, the Roman gymnast and five-time Olympic gold medalist, 1976, 1980. She was born in Onesti, Romania. As the story goes, after that first performance in which she was just spectacular and received a perfect 10, the scoreboard, in the way that it was configured, because there had never been a perfect 10 in gymnastics, was only made in a way that it would go to a 9.99. And they had to clarify things. And it was like, no, that's the most we could put on the board, but she actually got a 10. And then another and another. Just amazing. Sammy Sosa, born on this day in 1968.
Baseball been very, very good to me.
Very, very good to me. What a summer that was.
Oh, man. I was there for that. I went up to Chicago, saw the Cardinals and the Cubbies get after it.
Really?
In the heat of the race, yeah.
There was pretty good energy that season, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was, to say the least, man. That was epic. And one of those that you'll never see again either, I don't think. Between McGuire and Sosa, that race.
Yeah.
Woo.
Well, yeah, the strike of 94, came back in 95, Braves won the World Series, and that was the summer of 97, right? That was the summer that people say baseball came back. And those two men, despite the steroids, despite the corked bats and the allegations or whatever, they just put on a show. And that's what people wanted. People wanted to be entertained. They wanted a show. They wanted drama. And man, oh man, did you get it. Tanya Harding's 55 years old today. She was born in Portland, Oregon. That's one of those things in history that happen where you're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
The movie I, Tonya, I believe it's on Hulu or Netflix. I think it's Hulu.
Yeah.
It's well done, and it really kind of goes back and jogs your memory of the sequence of events that went down. And Tanya Harding was a mess to begin with. So yeah, it was wasn't like you could see something coming or anything, but yeah, she was definitely your non-typical skater, of that time.
Ryan Gosling was born in London, Ontario, in Canada on this day in 1980, so he turns 45 today. The Notebook, Barbie, so many other movies. A reasonably attractive fella.
It was the line from Bill in Tombstone. That's the prettiest man I ever done saw. Or who was it that said that? That's Ryan Gosling, you know?
That's about right. That is, and he's the one that owns a soccer team also, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
He's been extremely successful, man. He's a dude. I didn't watch Barbie. I just couldn't make myself do it. But I don't know. Did you watch the Barbie movie?
No, I did not. But you can't fault him for playing the role of Ken when asked.
Perfect for it. Yeah, I just couldn't make myself watch a Barbie movie. So,
Anne Hathaway's 43 today. Famous for so many roles: The Princess Diaries, The Dark Knight Rise, Les Miserables. Just a spectacular actress. Happy birthday, Anne. We got some news headlines, some sports headlines coming up. Good basketball game in Oxford last night. Really entertaining game. Just getting started with you. It is Wednesday morning, the 12th of November. We're back right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Trade.
This is Mornings with Richard Cross.
Let's do it.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Some of you don't miss a thing. Appreciate the messages on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Also a couple to my cell phone suggesting that, no, Richard, it's not Ryan Gosling that owns the soccer team.
that's Ryan Reynolds that owns it.
It's Ryan Reynolds.
You know,
I was like, oh, yeah, another attractive young fella.
I had a funny, these things come to my head, but with the obviously the cell phone wars that are going on right now between, you've got AT&T and T-Mobile, Luke Wilson and Billy Bob Thornton both dressed up as cowboys out talking about their network. And then you got Ryan Reynolds over here, with Mint Mobile. It would be funny to do like a good, the bad, and the ugly kind of standoff between those three. And you get over to Ryan Reynolds, he's like, look, guys, I just want to sell phones, man. But really, if you've paid attention, there's obviously a little war going on right now between T-Mobile, AT&T, and then you got Ryan Reynolds over here just selling the Mint Mobile, baby.
And the problem is
making money.
The problem is none of those schmucks realize that they're all wrong.
Yeah, C-Spire's
and that C-Spire's the answer.
Exactly.
I mean, just
C-Spire. That ought to be a C-Spire commercial. Just have like the good, the bad, the ugly between those three, and then C-Spire.
Yeah.
Forget about all that mess.
Ryan Reynolds may be one of the most successful investors as an actor that's out there as well.
Who would have thunk it with Van Wilder?
He's got a 25% stake in Mint Mobile, a minority ownership stake in American Aviation Gin. He and fellow actor Rob McElhenney purchased the Welsh football club Wrexham AFC in 2020 for $2.5 million. They're now worth $100 million. He gets about $20 million of film, at least as a starting point, and then I got a whole portfolio of investments, including being a part owner in a Formula One team.
That's pretty impressive, man.
That's pretty cool deal there for.
You got to have a little money to make some money, but you can't fault him for being successful and learning how to actually take care of your assets, how to grow them, and it seems like he's having fun with the investments that he's made too. It's not like just
pick
passive
stuff you like. Yeah,
he picked stuff he liked and seems to have an impact on it as well.
This day in 1880, best-selling American novel Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ by soldier Lew Wallace was published. Obviously, he's going on to not only be one of the best-selling books of all time, but an incredibly popular movie.
Oh, good movie, yeah.
1942, the SS Robert E. Peary A Liberty ship built in 4 days and 15 and a half hours at Henry Kaiser's Richmond shipyard is launched, setting a new record. Do you want to get on a boat in the open water that was built in 4 days?
I mean, if that's your only option, you're like, we got to take this ship. But on the other side of that, it probably a lot of PR too to prove that America, when ratcheting up, can really get it done.
We'll get it done in a hurry.
Yeah, we can do this fast if we need to.
Buzz Aldrin was way ahead of his time. I know Neil Armstrong gets the headlines, but Neil Armstrong didn't take the first space selfie. No, that was Buzz Aldrin, a photo of himself performing extravehicular activity in space during the Gemini 12 mission. Got that camera on a stick, holding it out there. Yeah. It's about as good a selfie as there's been.
Yeah, who's the first photo bomb in space? Like, who you're supposed to be getting these guys, but
I was E.T.
E.T. Who is that? We don't see those pictures. Yeah, they got those.
Just an odd little nugget here. 1974. A salmon was discovered in the River Thames in England. I only mention that because it was the first time in over 100 years that anyone had seen a salmon in the Thames. Just a random little nugget for you.
Yeah, maybe somebody's pet got out.
1990, the World Wide Web, the WWW, is first proposed by CERN, C-E-R-N, computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee and Robert
Caillou.
Caillou.
A lot of vowels in there.
Like, hey, we got this idea. Let's put I mean, think about the stuff that we don't even think about today. Like, it just happens. We're 25, 35 years removed from somebody like, all right, here's what you do. You go to your keyboard and you go www dot period. They might have said www period. And then you go to, type in whatever it is the website is, dot what? Yeah.
Everybody was like, oh, a website, what is that? Is this a magazine?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Sure.
Because everything was downloaded before that, pretty much, for the consumer.
And
floppy disks and hardware and everything.
Right. We finally, Lance, gotten to the point where nobody says www anymore. But for a long time, we were at the spot where it's like, hey, just go to ESPN.com.
Yeah.
So we've been in that stage for a while, but we're really not that far removed from people saying, hey, got to go to www.espn.com.
Yeah, you had to say the www.
Right. Nobody puts that, like if you've got a web address on your business card, nobody does that anymore. But we're not that far removed from still having the three letters at the beginning as opposed to just typing it into the search bar.
It makes like when I was trying to explain to my dad getting the ESPN app, he'd say, well, just go to ESPN. Yes, wait, we're saying it now. But he's like, what ESPN? Which one are you talking about? Right. It's like, not the channel.
Website,
you got to go to got to go to the app. He's like, oh, what is an app? So it's learning a whole new language that we've learned since 1990. Can you imagine the number of words that have been added to the English dictionary since 1990 because of the World Wide Web?
2015, Barack Obama was named Ally of the Year of the gay community and became the first sitting U.S. president to pose for the cover of a gay magazine.
Bold move, Cotton.
2022, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. I didn't even know that he gave out this award, the Courage and Civility Award. But in 2022, I guess it was the third year he did it, $100 million cash award. And he gave it to singer-songwriter Dolly Parton to distribute to charities of her choice.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then it was a year ago today that Donald Trump selected entrepreneur Elon Musk and former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy to head the newly created Doge. the Department of Government Efficiency. Ramaswamy didn't last very long. Elon hung around for a while. And he's gotten approved, right, for this $1 trillion pay package. The shareholders of Tesla voted overwhelmingly, that's 75% to 25%, to approve the $1 trillion potential pay package. But he's got to get Tesla to what, an $8.5 trillion valuation, I think it is. Just numbers that are hard to wrap your mind around.
Astronomical numbers.
Yes, they are. I owe you some news headlines. Here are a couple. An assistant football coach at Murrah High School in Jackson is facing drug charges. Rankin County Sheriff's Office announced earlier this week, yesterday actually, that Robert Tyreek Landers, 34 years old, was arrested after a joint investigation with the RCSO, the Madison Police Department, and the Postal Service. According to the release, approximately 13 pounds of suspected high-grade marijuana and approximately 7 pounds of a gray paste-like substance that field tested positive for methamphetamine were found inside Landers' home, Mount Helm Road in Brandon. Drugs have been submitted to the state crime lab for further testing. Landers, the defensive coordinator at Murrah, he was charged with 2 counts of conspiracy to traffic a controlled substance. According to the Murrah High School website, he's also a health teacher, influencing young minds.
Wow.
The Mississippi University for Women is celebrating #1 rankings in the state for both nursing and speech language pathology programs. Niche is the ranking service, recognized the university in its 2026 Best Colleges for Nursing in Mississippi rankings. The site placed the W among the top 10 public universities and number 29 overall in its Best Colleges for Nursing in America. It's good stuff. W, big growth year for them as well. A few more news headlines. We'll get to some sports on the other side of this timeout. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for starting your day with us. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Since you're up early, you get the news first. Back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Kinda hangs in the air. Rednecks, white socks, and blue ribbon beer. A cowboy's cussing a pinball machine. A drunk at the bar is getting noisy and mean. And some guy on the phone says, "I'll be home soon, dear." Rednecks, white socks, and
Pride of Moorhead, Mississippi.
No, we don't fit in.
Good to be with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. MRC brought to you every morning. Presented, in fact, by Community Bank. Rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Sam's Town Hotel and Gambling Hall has officially closed its doors after more than 30 years in Tunica. Casino opened in 1994, shut down for good this past Sunday. Boyd Gaming, the Las Vegas company that owns Sam's Town, announced plans back in September to close the doors. The company's decision centered on dwindling foot traffic to Tunica over the last 2 decades. This was not an easy decision for our company, they said. However, demand throughout the Northwest Mississippi market has declined significantly over the past 20 years, with several of Tunica's original casinos closing since 2014. Our decision to close Sam's Town is a result of these market conditions and follows our best efforts to adjust the business to address lower demand. At the time of its closure, the casino employed up to 200 people. I saw that number and I couldn't help but think, man, how many people worked at Sam's Town in, 1999, 2000, 2001? I bet it was 3 or 4 times that. With Sam's Town turning off the lights, only 5 gaming centers remain afloat in Tunica. You've got First Jackpot Casino, Fitz Tunica Casino and Hotel, and then I believe 3 of the originals. Obviously, Splash was the first. I say obviously. If you live in this part of the state of Mississippi, if you live in the Delta, you remember Splash as the first casino. It was basically a trailer on pontoons. But, man, not only did people line up, people paid a cover charge to get in.
Oh, man. Yeah. Tunica was hopping back in the day.
Oh.
Yeah, you got
North Mississippi's gaming market continues to lag behind the Gulf Coast. About a dozen casinos on the coast with more planned. January through May of this year, the North Mississippi market has totaled a little over $222 million in monthly casino adjusted gross gaming revenue. Gulf Coast tripled that figure at $659 million through the first 5 months.
Wonder what happened to that big old casino that they were going to put all the illegals in. Hadn't heard anything about that in a long time. The one that was up in Tunica.
I don't know.
Robinsonville area.
I wonder if you could buy that property for, like, a reasonable amount.
As far as the one that was, yeah. I mean,
I'm thinking about, like...
the Sam's Town?
Sam's Town.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go back to farmland? Now, you could park some stuff at, like, if you need a shop, that could be a big shop for you. I don't know if you could get it for a decent price or not, but anyway. DeSoto, how about this story? This Shad White involved in this. DeSoto County Crime Stoppers is in a little bit of trouble with the state auditor's office, and frankly, the citizens of DeSoto County, for allegedly spending hundreds of thousands of dollars while failing to perform their basic duty, report tips to crimes for law enforcement. Listen to this. A report from the state auditor's office found that DeSoto County Crime Stoppers spent roughly $400,000 over 10 years without being able to provide any evidence that it offered any tips to local law enforcement. Not one?
Wow.
Over a decade?
Man.
Qualms that the cities and the county espoused about Crime Stoppers seem to be validated by Shad White's team. The auditor's office found that DeSoto County paid extra fees to keep one of their 2 tip hotlines unpublished. It's like somebody using that as their personal phone line. Crime Stoppers could not produce any records showing it collected or gave tips to law enforcement over a 10-year period.
Wow.
They provided no records showing a reward paid to an informant in the last decade. $240,000, or 60% of the total spending, went to employee salaries.
To do what? Apparently show up.
23 and 24, DeSoto County Crime Stoppers purchased 3,000 calendars and paid over $600 to ship them 13 miles from a company in Hernando to their address in Horn Lake.
I wonder what those are.
You know, maybe they handed them out at local businesses. Or maybe they're
boxed
in a dumpster.
A dumpster
or a box
somewhere.
that was never opened.
Never opened, sitting in a corner somewhere. Man,
Your sports update on Mornings with Richard Cross brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online at pearlriverresort.com. Your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. That's Pearl River Resort, pearlriverresort.com. Get to know his name and learn to pronounce it. You're going to have to do that a lot this year. Ilias Kamerdine tallied 26 points last night. 3 other players reached double figures, and Ole Miss won in a thriller, 83-77 over Memphis last night at the Pavilion. Rebels moved to 3-0 in the year. Did not trail in the second half, but that lead got skinny late. Cut to as little as 4 points after leading by 11 with about 7.5 minutes to play. Kamerdine was an efficient 11 of 14 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point range in just his third collegiate game. Remember, he's played professionally and with the French national team previously. His dunk with 29 seconds left put an exclamation point on the win for the Rebels. Keza Jiffa had 15. Malik Dia had 13 and 6 rebounds. A.J. Storr, a little off from what he has been, 10 points last night. So 4 players in double figures for the Rebels. Memphis fell to 1-1 on the season. They were led by Curtis Givens, 20 points, and Doug McDaniels, career-high 15 points. Memphis leads the all-time series 30-17.
I was going to say, that was just chipping away at the block. Getting
That's
that
right.
One. Yeah, got to keep
Ole Miss
chipping.
in games played in Oxford. Now lead the series 13-6. New college football playoff rankings came out last night. And a little bit of movement. Ohio State still number 1. Indiana still number 2. Hold on a second, Lance. Why is it? I'm not used to where you can't just click on the link and it goes. I'm having to hit a button to do it. Sorry. Derailed my own thoughts there. Ohio State remains number 1, followed by Indiana at 2, Texas A&M at 3, Alabama at 4, Georgia at 5. So the top 5 unchanged. The first change comes at number 6. That is where Ole Miss resided a week ago. Rebels fall 1 spot to number 7, despite the fact that they beat the Citadel 49-0 last week.
Texas Tech, though. I mean, with a loss to Arizona State, and you're going to be in front of Ole Miss, that is kind of odd. But
but it's recency. I mean, they beat a top 10 team in BYU.
Yeah.
Ole Miss has a better overall resume than Texas Tech. They just do. But the what have you done for me lately stuff comes into play. After Ole Miss, you got Oregon at 8, Notre Dame at 9, Texas at 10, Oklahoma at 11, BYU at 12. Then it's Utah, Vanderbilt, Miami, Georgia Tech, Southern Cal down at 17. Tennessee is at 23. So
you think? I mean, they just had to throw a Big 12 team in there, maybe in the top 8. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying Texas Tech's not a good team, but
I think they're really good.
They look like they're a pretty solid squad.
I think BYU's good too.
Yeah.
If the playoff began today, which I know, but it's just fun, right? It's fun to think about what the matchups could look like, who the teams in the conversation are. The number 1 overall seed, Ohio State, would host the winner of 9 seed Notre Dame at Oregon. So Notre Dame would go to Eugene. Alabama, the 4 seed, would get the winner of the 5 seed Georgia and the 12 seed South Florida. Ole Miss and Texas in Oxford.
Wow.
Winner gets Indiana, or Indiana gets the winner. Texas Tech, Miami in the 6-11 game. Winner would get Texas A&M. All I know is when that came out last night, the local business owners, hotels, restaurants, retail establishments in Oxford said, yes, please! Yes, please! Yes, please! Yeah, what a scene that would be. Whew!
From the Venable Glass.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
MRC with you. It is Wednesday morning, the 12th of November. So we got Thanksgiving 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Sneaking up on us.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. I mean, it's time to start. If you have not, well, you may just go to the grocery store and grab a turkey. But if you order your turkeys from somewhere, probably time to get after it. Your Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. No jackpot winner for Lotto America. It's up to $6.8 million. Got a big Powerball drawing tonight. $512 million for the jackpot. The estimated cash value, $239,100,000. And last night, you had a Mega Millions drawing, and there was no winner. The numbers were 10, 13, 40, 42, and 46. The Mega Ball was 1. Because there was no winner, the estimated jackpot for Friday night's drawing, $965 million. The estimated cash value of that, a little over $445 million. They give you a little walking around money anyway.
I remember some retirement money.
No doubt. That is your Mississippi Lottery update. Visit them online at mslottery.com, mslottery.com. You got some new games from the lottery. They've kicked off their holiday season early with 3 brand new scratch-off games available now. $2 Candy Cane Cash. Top prize is $500. The $5 Merry Multiplier, packed with cheer, and prizes up to $50,000. And the $20 Full of 5,000s. Game is loaded with $5,000 prizes with a top prize of $100,000. Grab your holiday games now. Scratch-off games make great holiday happies for adults 21 and over. Kind of a cool stocking stuffer. If you think because the government shutdown is almost over that airline travel is immediately going to get better, Sean Duffy and the folks at the transportation say, maybe not so fast. Duffy yesterday warned of massively more disruption in air travel if the ongoing shutdown continues into the weekend. Now, the House is going to vote today, we think, to completely end the government shutdown. Democrats have said that they are going to do everything they can to keep that bill from passing. They want to keep the government shut. Hakeem Jeffries wants to keep it closed. Duffy said this: you're going to see this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday big disruption thus far, massively more disruption as we come into the weekend if the government doesn't open. It's going to radically slow down. So the House has to do its work. And by the way, I'm very hopeful. It seems like they're in a good mood to come in and vote to open the government. Flights at 40 airports throughout the United States were reduced by 6% yesterday. We know that the government shutdown vote on the Senate side was 60-40 on Monday, with a bill that includes funding for military construction, Veterans Affairs, the Department of Agriculture, and the legislative branch through September. The rest of the government, 2.5 more months. Duffy said Tuesday that flight cuts were going to stop only when the data says we should. What he's talking about is the air traffic controller shortage. He said, we're at the cusp of hopefully having the government reopened. I'm concerned that we're not going to have on day one controllers come back into the towers right away. I'm asking them to do that. President Trump has asked them to do that. It's their jobs and they will be paid, but it might not be immediate that they come back. Eey. The number of flights that have been canceled are staggering. I'm not a big get in the car and drive guy.
I love driving.
Well, yeah.
I mean, as much as you travel, I mean,
yeah, different strokes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to drive to Oklahoma this weekend. I've got the Kansas State Oklahoma State game on Saturday.
Caleb rode up with a buddy of his. It wasn't a bad ride, he said, at all. For the Ole Miss
Well, I've done it once already this year because of flight issues. That was to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State's pretty close to Norman. About 7.5 hours, give or take, maybe 8. So that's my plan. And, it might be completely okay to fly, but it's like, is it worth the risk? And even if I get out of Memphis on time, is the connection in Dallas going to be good? And then it just, And that way, when it's over, I can jump in the car and roll on Saturday. Listen to the Rebels on Saturday night on the ride home. 7 o'clock hour is on the way. Going to be joined at 7:35 this morning by Robert Johnson. Represents District 94. He's the minority leader in the House of Representatives. And in the 8 o'clock hour, to start things off, Dr. Daniel Ennis, president at Delta State, will join Mornings with Richard Cross as well. We got lots to talk about with you this morning. Quick timeout. The news is coming up next. Then we roll into the 7 o'clock hour. Thanks for spending part of your morning with us. We're back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Have mercy on me when it comes to crossing the good golly woman. That just scares the devil right out of me.
Seven o'clock hour, it is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Thanks for joining us, for making us part of your morning routine. We certainly appreciate that. We're glad to have you along. We welcome you to the conversation on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Ready for the best Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals? They're on right now at C Spire, like any new iPhone, up to $1,000 off with trade-in, plus a free Apple Watch SE to go with it. Or for Samsung fans, you can get the new Galaxy S25 free today. No trade-in needed. The best Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals go fast, so don't wait. Shop now at cspire.com or visit your local C Spire store today. C Spire, customer inspired. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. We appreciate you being with us this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey, looking to manage your personal finances. Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Thanks for joining us this morning. Did you hear the debate? An idea that the president threw out that has had economists and others pushing back. We know that the most common way to buy a house is with a federally backed 30-year mortgage. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are the most common tools used. Of course, there are lots and lots and lots of ways that you can finance a house, but the 30-year note is kind of the standard. And then people who are able, and in a lot of cases, I'm careful to say this, it's really ability more than anything else. There are a lot of people that prefer to go with a 15-year mortgage. You pay it off much faster. You have less interest that's rolled into it, but that usually results in a more expensive payment. One of the things that this administration is focused on, and you're hearing it more and more, J.D. Vance talked about it when he was in Oxford at the Turning Point event a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was 2 weeks ago today, and that was making housing more affordable for young people. The president has suggested that One way you could do that is to roll out a 50-year mortgage, a half-a-century mortgage. Now, if you are a math or a finance or an economic person, you probably would point out that, well, okay, that means you're going to pay a lot more in interest. It's just going to be spread out over a longer period of time. The White House says it is considering backing a 50-year mortgage to help alleviate the home affordability crisis in the country. But the announcement has drawn immediate criticism from policymakers, social media, and economists who said a 50-year mortgage would do little to resolve other core problems in the housing market, including a lack of supply and high interest rates. Agreed on the lack of supply piece. You can't just magically make more homes appear. The high interest rates thing is, that requires a little bit of historical perspective. So a 30-year interest rate on a house right now is, I haven't looked today, but in the neighborhood of 6%. That's down over where it has been for the last couple of years. It certainly is up from where it was for, the better part of a decade, Lance, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it depends on your credit, obviously. But
obviously.
Good credit, you were getting good deals.
Assuming good credit, for a long period of time, you had interest rates that were kind of at the high end, around 5%. And at the low end, you had people that were getting 30-year mortgages, 2.5, 2.75, 2.85, like just almost free money when you talk about the length of time on the loan.
Well, and you also, if you have cash, you can buy discount points up front and push it down even further. So
I'm just talking about the standard way that people buy houses, though.
Oh, sure, and that is pretty standard. If you've got money, and you want to drop your interest rate even further, you can buy discount points up front. And so, that's very common for people that have the cash in advance,
Right.
But
that part of the problem is a lot of people don't have a lot of extra cash. So they're paying whatever the minimum down payment is. And if their credit is good, financing houses for 30 years. And the interest rates on that were really, really low. So when we say high interest rates, historically, we're still at a great place. But in terms of recent history, you're about double where you were just a few years ago. Bill Pulte is director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, FHFA, which oversees both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, said on X over the weekend that a 50-year mortgage would be a complete game changer for home buyers. The 30-year mortgage is a uniquely American financial product and the default way to buy a home since the New Deal, so going back to the 60s. Politicians and policymakers at the time wanted to create a standardized mortgage that borrowers could afford to pay off during their working years when the average lifespan of an American was 66 years old. So if you extend the life of a mortgage to 50 years, it does decrease the monthly payment. The average selling price of a home in the United States in September, $415,200. If you make the assumption of a standard 10% down payment and an interest rate of a little above 6%, the monthly payment on a 30-year note, just shy of $2,300, while the payment on a 50-year mortgage would be just a hair over $2,000. That's presuming that a bank would not require a higher interest rate on a 50-year mortgage due to the longer duration of the loan.
Well, time is risk, so you can't ask a bank to hold it 20 more years, which a bank isn't doing it anyway. It's a hedge fund. And,
but the government-backed FHFA might.
Again, I would say I'm not anti on a 50. I would like to see more specifics. Why wouldn't you go to a 40 first, if lifespans are roughly 10 years, 12 years longer, why would you go out 20 more years? I understand you want to create a market where people can afford a home, in the face of high rents. I get it. So you got to come up with a solution. Not sure if 50 years, though, is the right way to go. Again, I'd have to dig deeply into that to see.
So here's some crazy numbers.
Because I worry about people getting into these interest-only ones, which you saw the last time. And, once you run out of people to loan to, that's when the loans get real creative to get you to buy them.
Yeah. So using that average sale price of a home, $415,200, assuming a $41,520 down payment, and 6.2% interest on that loan of almost $375,000. In a traditional 30-year loan, you would get to $50,000 equity in, let's see, about 10 years, maybe 9 years.
But, I mean, the question...
You would hit the $100,000 mark in terms of equity in about 15 years. And your total payments over the life of the loan, the 30-year loan, it would cost you $823,000, almost $824,000 to buy the house. In a 50-year note, it would take you...
I fear you'd have a lot of people walking away because you're never going to build equity quickly in a 50-year mortgage. You don't do it in a 30. It takes you getting into the year 15 maybe.
Yeah. So in a 50-year note, it would take you over 20 years, 22 years to hit $50,000 in equity.
When you have no skin in the game, people have a tendency to walk away.
It would take you 30 years to get to $100,000 in equity, and the total cost of buying that $415,000 house over the course of 50 years would be $1.2 million. And that's in the name of saving $280 a month.
I guess that's my question. What is the barrier to entry now? Why would you need that?
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Was this thing that they threw out about a 15-year car note real? We'll debunk that on the other side of this quick break. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Track.
On your radio, on our app, or on your smart speaker. We're always free. Super Talk Mississippi, your home for Mornings with Richard Cross.
So you may have seen and read the stories about the possibility of a 50-year mortgage, something that the government, the president, and the FHFA, sorry about the acronym there, are kind of behind. And we'll see where that goes. But there were people that had some fun with that online as well. And you may have seen a viral meme or announcement from the president suggesting a 15-year car loan. Now, right now, if you're looking for a car loan on a new vehicle, and vehicles have certainly become more expensive, much more expensive, there's some scenarios where you can finance out to 84 months. That's actually become a pretty common financial tool. 72 months, a 6-year note is very common. A 5-year, 60-month note is, honestly, it's the payment is too expensive for a lot of people, especially when you see the cost of vehicles and the vehicles that you see rolling around on the highways. And so more people have gone to longer payments. Gizmodo says it's getting harder to tell the difference between satire and reality. An announcement from the White House has been going viral in recent days, claiming that President Trump is working on making 15-year car loans available to all Americans. That is a fake announcement. That is not a real thing. But it's a joke based on something that is very real. A quote here: as he continues to work hard to make the American dream accessible to everyone, President Trump today has asked the Departments of Transportation and Commerce to make vehicle ownership for all a reality by introducing 15-year car loans. Secretaries Duffy and Lutnick are already working on it, delivering for America. That's according to the viral screenshot. They did that on a navy blue, the White House background. It's not true. Where did it come from, though? It appears to have originated on a satire account on X. The tweet included a joke along with the photoshopped announcement that reads, if you want to pay $100,000 for a 2009 Chevy Equinox, this is the way. Not real. But it did pick up some traction, no doubt. But it's tied to, and it was somebody that was kind of picking at or making fun of the idea of going to a 50-year mortgage. Now, for all of the people that have said the 50-year mortgage is a terrible idea, economists saying it's not a good idea, the amount of interest that you would pay is too prohibitive, people don't stay in houses long enough, Americans don't live long enough, they're not in the workforce long enough. For all of those reasons, there are actually some people that have said this is a great idea. And it's a great idea because it frees up more cash for you to do other things. Now, for a lot of people, the other things would be, I don't know, buying groceries, putting your kids through school, paying for daily essentials. But the idea that some went with is, hey, it creates more investment opportunity for you if you've got more cash on the side. You're taking the difference in what your payment would be at 30 years versus 50 years. And you've got the discipline to take that amount of money and drop it into a mutual fund or drop it into the stock market or wherever you want to go to invest, buy rental property, whatever it may be. And that over the course of that 50 years, the $200 a month or the $300 a month or the $1,000 a month, depending on the size of the mortgage, more than makes up for what you would be spending on a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage. One of the other things that people have talked about a lot in this is for those people that were fortunate to get one of those really, really low interest rates, 5 years ago. And by the way, we had a couple of people that pointed to things that their parents did. This one, my parents paid 25% on a home loan during the Carter years, but they only borrowed $33,000 in 1976. That house is now worth $450,000.
But there's a big difference. Your savings rate was quadruple what it is now for the personal and household. So you're at the almost historic lows in the history of this country at your savings rate. So where's the money going to come from? You don't have it. The lowest savings rate we've ever been at was in 2005, and that's historical lows of 1.4. We got pretty close to that. So my point is,
but Lance, I think you're missing the point that I'm not arguing in the 70s or against this.
No, in the 70s though, you actually had money in the bank. Is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, it was. Interest rates are usually commensurate with things like that, So as interest rates have gotten really low, personal savings rates have gotten even lower. So I mean, I'm just making a point. It's like scissors working, right? As interest rates go up, savings rates usually are higher. And when rates go down, people spend all their money and borrow money, and they don't have any in the bank. So I guess my point is, if you're going to encourage longer-term lending with a low savings rate, isn't that risky? I mean, aren't you saying that we hope you can pay the mortgage rather than we know you can pay it? Because that has a lot to do with interest rates, is risk.
Well, and to your point about interest rates, if you were looking at buying a house in the last couple of years and you had interest rates that were hovering in the 6.5% to 7.5% range, you might have talked to your banker and realized that, hey, there's this money market account that I can put money in, which is just like a savings account that you kind of treat like a
super
checking account.
Short-term savings account, yeah.
Those were drawing 5%, which is almost an unheard of rate. Now, as interest rates on houses have gone down, the yield that you get on a money market savings account has also gone down. It's probably more like 3.5% or 4% now. So I certainly understand the point you're making there.
But it's risky.
This one was
when you don't have when your people in your country cannot save money, you have a fundamental problem in your economy. This is not something Donald Trump created. The question is, what is the problem? Where are we having issues? Because I don't see loaning more money to be the solution. I see saving money to be the solution, where people have money in the bank account and they're not worried about, oh, how do I feed myself if I don't get paid for a month? Well, 40 years ago, you weren't worried about that because you had money in the bank. Now we don't. And so that's more of my worry is we have zero savings, zero. We're mortgaging our future off of what? You don't have anything in the bank. Most Americans do not.
Well, it's a short-term view versus a long-term view. And generally speaking, we're not great with long-term view, right? It's about payments. It's not about wealth. There's so many people that when they go and they buy a car, for example, the question is not, hey, how much does this car or this truck cost? The question is, what's my payment? Right? It's not, hey, is this a $60,000 vehicle? Well, I can only afford a $45,000 vehicle. The question is,
what's my payment?
What's my payment each month? Because this is the amount of money that I've got right now on a monthly basis to cover all of my bills.
Whether the vehicle or house or what is worth that, you're going, well, I can afford it because you say I can. And that is part of it.
I mean, Thomas sums it up perfectly. He says, what does it cost versus what does it cost a month?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I can't be mad at people for that either.
No. I mean, when you don't have much money in the bank, you've got to look at how do I save money? Even if I'm paying more for something in the long run, I'm willing to sacrifice that so I can have that vehicle and pay more for the vehicle over 7 years than I would have if I had the money to buy it now.
Yeah.
And that's reality. Yeah, you can't blame people for taking the best option available. The question is this the most healthy way to go about, running an economy, with your citizens at almost a zero savings? I think that's very risky.
Yeah. Somebody says, just move to New York City. It's all free there.
Yeah, well.
Although the governor of New York has already come out and said, hey, some of the promises that Zoran Mamdani was making during the campaign, we're not going to free bus fares. I know he was promising free bus fares. We can't afford to take the revenue out of the bus system that is generated from people paying to ride those buses and just absorb that. She's like, yeah, we're not doing that. It's not happening. But people believed what Mamdani was. They believed what he was selling. They were buying what he was selling. It's going to be free. He's going to control rents. He's going to lock in rents. I had somebody not too long ago say, hey, man, try to pile up as much cash as you can right now, because when they freeze those rents on those buildings in New York, you look up 2, 3, 4 years from now, and those people that have got adjustable rate loans, you're going to be getting out of those buildings. There'll be some deals to be had. I think that still takes a lot of cash. Representative Robert Johnson, the minority leader in the Mississippi House of Representatives, joins us next. Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Where you come first for news. Fast and free. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Mama's gonna wash all away. She thinks mercy is overrated.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Glad to be joined by my first guest this morning, Representative Robert Johnson. He's the minority leader in the Mississippi House of Representatives. Got a great-looking backdrop in his home office as he joins us this morning, represents District 94. Mr. Minority Leader, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's good to be with you, and appreciate some of your time this morning. Let's start here. Let's rewind 8 days. We had special elections here in Mississippi last week. Those largely were a result of redistricting that was ordered by the court. You had some retirements and some career transitions that opened up some seats as well. And overall, it was a pretty good day for Democrats in Mississippi. The supermajority goes away in the Senate. There's still a significant majority, but not that supermajority anymore. How do you assess what last Tuesday meant for the Democrat Party in Mississippi?
Well, we were excited about it. We were happy that it happened, and we appreciate the court's ruling, which, it was not a far-reaching. I mean, it was fair. It did what the Voting Rights Act was designed to do. And when you have Democratic victories, people assume that means that, oh, here goes another packed district. But these were marginally, what we would normally call in the last 20 years swing districts. They were 51, 52%, what we call BVAP. And we, whenever you have, a majority black voting population, just about all African Americans are Democrats. So people just, the Democrats are supposed to win, but we hardly ever win. African American doesn't always win a swing district. So this is what I take away from it, which I think is really important, is that, for instance, in the Senate district that Ms. Isom won and Johnny Dupree won, those were districts that were 51, 52%, but they both won with more than 60% of the vote. So right. What it says to me, and I didn't say it first, I think Senator Jeremy England said it first, is that we take it as an indication that, Republicans, and I think Democrats as well, have to look more closely in terms of how we conduct ourselves in terms of policies, that people really on both sides want more moderation. They want people they think that can work across the aisle. They don't want this polarized all the way one side, one way or the other. So I think it's an indication that the public, the voting public, is ready to see a sort of a more moderate leadership all over the country, but in Mississippi too.
It's interesting to me to hear you say that, because when I think about, and this is very much a general comment, I don't usually think about Democrats in Mississippi as far to the left as I think about Democrats that are nationally elected. I don't think of Democrats in Mississippi like I do Zohran Mamdani, who is a Democrat socialist and now the mayor of New York City. How do you conflate those two things with what you believe as a Democrat in Mississippi versus your association with being a Democrat and the way people view that nationally? Does that make sense? That question makes sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And so I'm not accusing you or your show of this, but you discuss a lot about national politics here on this show. And you have a lot of discussions about what national Democrats are doing. And so what happens is, apparently people listen and they think that every Democrat is that way. But you're 100% right. Mississippi Democrats are not national Democrats. Mississippi Democrats are, if you put them on a scale, on a scale and looked at their politics compared to national politics, we would be considered a little more right of center in terms of the Democratic Party. Yeah. But we get painted with the same brush in this state. And so we spent a lot of time, as I was helping Brandon Presley run for governor, we spent a lot of time saying, hey, look, this gender politics that is national, that's not ours. What do we care about? We care about public safety, public health, public roads and bridges. We care about making sure the services that need to be provided are being provided. Where we bump heads with the Republican leadership in this state is that we feel that distribution of services is not equitably distributed. And so we spend our time in the legislature not talking about transgender rights or some of these other things that everybody talks about. We spend our time saying, look, you haven't done any economic development in certain areas of the state, or we hadn't created jobs. So we try to do that. I mean, look at my background. I think a lot of national politicians would be, worried about the fact that I'm a gun owner. I'm no longer because of politics. Remember the NRA, but I came back after law school to Mississippi because I like the environment here. I want to be here. And I think most Mississippians who are here, Democrat or Republican, are here because they like what we do here in this state.
So I agree with almost everything that you said there, but here's the disconnect for me. So if there is a difference in a Mississippi Democrat and a national Democrat, but Mississippi Democrats still align when you get to a presidential election with Kamala Harris, for example, who's very much to the left, or Joe Biden, because national Democrats, as we're talking about, have pulled the Democrat Party so far to the left, and those 80-20 issues you're talking about, the gender rights issue, for example, or boys and girls bathrooms, that we've gone down that road so many times. 80% of Americans believe that that's stupid, but you've got 20%, and they seem to be the ones that are the loudest. So that's the disconnect for me, is like, you and I probably are not that far apart politically on a lot of issues, and yet when it comes down to it, you or fellow Democrats, Brandon Presley, you mentioned just a second ago, are still going to align with somebody like Kamala Harris. How do you connect those two things?
Kamala Harris, the gender issues in girls and boys bathroom was not a major issue. In fact, it's my opinion, Republicans made that a major issue.
Sure.
Democrats stand for the rights of all people, but in terms of the percentage of what's important and what we fight for, even nationally, that's not a big issue. Boys and girls bathrooms is not a proliferation. It's not a growing problem. It's not all over the place. I don't even know why,
especially not here.
That, but it's not, especially not here. And look, it's especially not anywhere in the Midwest, and probably nowhere in very few places. But politicians made that a big issue. What I agreed with Kamala Harris about was making sure people had a living wage and making sure that we were taking care of people who need more opportunity. I mean, we're talking about basic human rights. Those kind of things were important, and not so much about the gender issues. And I don't know why that became one of the major issues in national politics, and that was not a major part of her platform. Now, what I have a problem with Republicans is that you can't possibly believe that everything that Donald Trump does is okay. I mean, look at what he's doing to farmers. Look at what he's doing. I mean, he's enriching himself at the same, and he did that before. This is not a new thing. At the same time, he's robbing people who had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 generation farmers their opportunity to continue to do what they've been doing in their
Do you mean
lives.
because of the tariffs?
Not just because of the tariffs. When you cut funding in USAID, and for what? That was a diplomatic tool that Republicans and Democrats have used for years. But the other thing that he didn't recognize, or didn't pay attention to, or didn't care, is that we have operated with a farm surplus in this country since probably World War II. And what Democrat and Republican leadership in this country developed was a mechanism by which those surpluses would not go to waste and farmers could continue to operate. So we were able to distribute those goods around the world to the benefit of this country and the benefit of our farmers. So you cut that off, saying we don't need to send aid to any of these countries anymore. But what you were doing was cutting off, before there were tariffs, when he cut off that aid, he cut off a major revenue source for farmers in this country. And what it says to me is that we need leadership that is sensitive to everybody and sensitive to what is going on. Before you just, in the first 3 months of his administration, he came in and cut that opportunity off for farmers. And I use farmers as an example because that has never been a partisan issue. We've always taken care of our family farms. And I thought it was extraordinary that a person that had probably 90% of the family farmers in this country supporting him would cut that off. So I think we all need to spend.
Hold that thought for me, if you don't mind. We're going to take a quick time out, continue the conversation with Representative Robert Johnson. He represents District 94, minority leader in the House of Representatives right here in Mississippi. We're back right after this.
Where you come first for news. Fast and free. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We chased Lady Luck till we finally struck Bonanza.
Back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Find them online at communitybank.net. Robert Johnson is my guest, representative and the minority leader in the Mississippi House of Representatives. I want us to get to two big things in a kind of a short segment here, some of your legislative priorities and also maybe your thoughts on the school choice debate. But I do want to go back to one thing before we do that. I feel like even as we were talking a second ago, the whole gender issues thing, it felt like a canary in a coal mine. And you talked about Republicans making that an issue. It felt like that was a campaign ad. But don't you think that ultimately the presidential election, are now 10 months in the rearview mirror of a year ago when from Election Day, was about border security and the flow of illegals into the country and economics and people not having enough money in their pockets, that ultimately that was the difference in winning and losing for one side or the other?
Yeah, I think I think that was a big issue, but I think the transgender issue had way more importance. I think if there was no transgender issue, Kamala Harris would be president right now. I think that.
Well, you don't think it was about all the illegals flowing across the border and the open border policies?
Nobody in Mississippi. Look, I think that was the biggest issue. I think that was the biggest issue. But everybody keeps saying that Donald Trump won with a mandate. It was a marginal victory, and I think the margin would have, without that issue, without running these ads where Kamala Harris was for sex change operations in prisons. Look. When you have a margin that small, that particular issue, you're not wrong. The immigration issue, which I thought was overinflated, was the biggest issue in the country. I think that was it. But in terms of the margin that could have made the difference, they clearly exploded that issue on the transgender thing. I think the immigration issue is unavoidable. I don't think it's a big deal in Mississippi, but I think in areas in Texas and California and places like that, for a lot of people, they feel like it's an issue. But I don't think it's as big an issue. I think it's almost hypocritical. Look, every time I have somebody do some work at my house, every time I have somebody the crew of people doing the work that's managed by a U.S. citizen are people who can't speak English. And there's no doubt in my mind that most of them are here illegally. But they're being employed by the same people who elect a man who says he wants to send them back. So I think we need to have a more effective immigration policy. But the fact that there's a proliferation of immigrants and they're taking, this idea, they're not taking anybody's job. They may be doing jobs that nobody's doing anymore, but they're not taking anybody's job. And I think they're more of a boost to the economy than they are a drain on the economy. I know the laws in Mississippi and I know national laws. I'm a lawyer. Hospitals have to take people in the emergency room. They can't turn anybody away. They're not going to look at your citizenship papers. But the majority of the people in the state of Mississippi, and that's where I try to concentrate my attention, are not illegal immigrants who are being a burden on emergency rooms and hospitals. They're our own citizens. And so when we use that as an issue and conflate that with the needs of the people in this country who are underpaid and under-resourced, I think it's a little bit disingenuous. But immigration was the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Immigration was the biggest issue.
I feel like you and I could debate that for a really long time, and we might go in circles. But I do want to ask you before we run out of time. We only got a couple of minutes left. In terms of priorities, we've heard so much about the school choice debate. What is at the top of your priority list as we go into this legislative session that's now only about 6.5, 7 weeks away?
Well, as I heard you and Richard talking about the housing issue, housing is of course is important, but my answer to those issues like housing and why people don't have enough money to buy a house or live where they need to live is that we need to do more about creating opportunities and jobs in areas where people have serious issues with poverty. And in Mississippi, we have not done a good job of that. The governor touts about how many jobs we've created, but look, we get everything comes to Madison, Rankin, DeSoto, and Harrison counties. But there we have an enormous amount of vacant and open land, a very well-trained workforce west of I-55 and north of I-20, that we're not concentrating on getting anything done in those areas. Hospitals are closing, schools are not, don't have a tax base to create the kind of environment they need to have. And so our focus has continued to be, let's make sure that we create economic development and opportunity in those areas we hadn't done it. Let's do that. That's the number one thing, because I think if you do that, if you create a tax base, then you create an opportunity to take care of yourself. Nobody's asking for giveaways. We're asking for opportunity. What
does that project look like? What would an economic development project in the northern part of the Delta look like that would be successful?
Well, I'd say economic development is purposeful. What would be successful is we train people in all these disciplines, like welding, plumbing, machinery, computer.
Right.
I don't know what you call it. Those junior colleges have done a tremendous job of doing that. Anything that would make use of those things. And look, in places like California, where we have Silicon Valley and places like that, they are running out of patience with the cost of living and the cost of paying people. What they can train people to do, and we've trained people to do that, they can bring those kind of industries to the Delta. Almost 30 years ago, they had Baxter Pharmaceutical in the Delta. Pharmaceutical company in the Delta. You can do the same thing now.
I'm sorry, Mr. Minority Leader. We're out of time. I appreciate your time. Let's visit again soon.
From the heart of Mississippi to the halls of Washington, D.C., this is Mornings with Richard Cross, your source for hard-hitting political insight and unfiltered truth. Now, here's more on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I was a dam builder across a river deep and wide, where steel and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado. I slipped and fell into
Wednesday morning, middle of the week, Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. MRC is brought to you every day by Community Bank. You can find them online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. I will tell you, a lot of your messages are on the C Spire text line right now, 601-879-4395. I am bookmarking those, and we will come back to them. A lot of reaction to the conversation with Democrat Minority Leader or House of Representatives Minority Leader, Democrat Robert Johnson, and the conversation that we just had. We'll come back to those. But right now, we are going to press pause on that conversation as we welcome in Dr. Daniel Ennis, president at Delta State University. Dr. Ennis, always appreciate your time. Great to be with you this morning. How are things in Cleveland? Uh-oh. Don't have any audio. Hold on just a second. I don't know if that's a button on your... There we go.
Great, Richard. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great to be with you this morning. Let's go to the report that came out, I guess it was early last week, first week of November, when it comes out every year. IHL numbers, enrollment numbers. We hear about the higher education cliff, enrollment numbers that are trending down in a lot of places. All in all, the IHL numbers across the state of Mississippi were good, and particularly at Delta State. What was your reaction? Obviously, you've had those enrollment numbers for your school for a while now.
Yes, sir. Well, we were delighted. We're delighted for our IHL sister schools, and in particular, we've been tracking these numbers, of course. We track them constantly. We're already looking at fall 26 right now.
Right.
And we've been moving some things around. We have been building a great enrollment team and an admissions process. And we've made some changes, both on the personnel side and the process side. And we knew they were going to bear fruit, but we knew it was going to take a while. So we're happy with where things are now. And we're hoping that the things we put into place for this year's numbers will also continue to yield for Delta State.
So you talk about already looking to 2026. What does your forecasting process look like? Because having an idea of how many students you're going to have is so incredibly important.
It is. Well, one of the things that all colleges have to do that they didn't have to do when I started in this business is put a lot of investment into analytics. And so we know more about prospective college students than we ever did. We know a lot of things about them thanks to the internet. We know, when they took their ACT, we know what classes they had, and they voluntarily put this information into this, what we call the clearinghouse. But now, often I think I make it akin to sports teams. We're doing a lot more money balling with the numbers. What kind of student comes to Delta State? How much return on investment will we get to recruit this student from this school or this district? And so that lets us put our pretty limited money in a better spot. So there's certain students that, you look at what they want to be and what they've said they want to study, and you go, that student's a low priority for Delta State. We're still going to send them something. We'll send them some emails and a brochure, but there's other students that look like Delta State students, and we put our energy into them in a way that is much more nuanced than it used to be. And many colleges have taken this approach, a much more targeted approach to our kind of student.
Well, that's a fascinating way of looking at that. One of the things that to me stands out that really a lot of schools in Mississippi have done, whether you're talking about at the college and university level, the community college level, or even at the high school level, is create strategic partnerships with industry that match programs. Some engineering programs that Mississippi State has put in place and, kind of expanding their footprint in the Gulf Coast area. William Carey partnering with local business for specific type employees. I think about some of the offerings at Delta State. I think specifically about the aviation program and about the music production program. And there are probably other areas that we should be looking at as well. Is that something that you're focused on? And what does that look like at Delta State?
Sure, that's a great question. So, like every university in the IHL system, we have a comprehensive range of programs. So a student can find all kinds of things to hear. But it is the fact that most colleges, they have to tent pole the things that they're very good at, especially those programs where there's a niche that doesn't have so much competition. So, the Delta Music Institute is a great example. There's only a handful of national programs that will train students for music production and recording and live sound. And so connecting students who are interested in that with our program and then putting to our price point is a good strategy. Same for things like nursing and aviation, where we know there's an industry that needs skilled workers and they need the credential we offer. And then, with those programs, the great thing is we are able to honestly tell our students, you walk across that graduation stage, it's not if, it's when and how many jobs you're going to sort through before you pick the one you want. And we want that for all of our students, but there's certain high impact industries where there's a high need. And frankly, all we're limited by is our capacity to recruit and train and put them out there into the workforce. So that's exciting for those students.
What does your recruiting effort look like in terms of the net you cast? How much of it is in-state versus out-of-state?
So Delta State's a strong in-state school. 81% of our students are in-state, and of that group, a large proportion of them are from the Delta. The 19 county Delta area. So we have a strong local pull. So we'll cast our net across the state, and then, like I said, through analytics and our great leadership over there in the admissions office and Dr. Curtis Coleman, we'll look at other areas where maybe we could establish ourselves. And one of the things I have to tell people is, sometimes someone will say, well, my student didn't get heavily recruited by Delta State, and the reality is all of us have to spend somewhere between $4 and $12 to cultivate a prospect, just like in sales. So I can't recruit every Mississippi high school senior, but our strategy is to look at, obviously high interest in Delta Music Institute or aviation or nursing or our teaching programs. They're more likely to come to Delta State. You mentioned Mississippi State and engineering. Well, we don't have an engineering program. So if a kid checks I'm interested in engineering on their clearinghouse material. Well, we shouldn't spend our money to try to get them to come to Delta State where they might not be happy.
It's not
Having said that,
it's not that we don't like you. It's just there's no return on investment there.
Yeah. And we don't want a student who doesn't fit here because we want them to get a college degree somewhere. Now, having said that, those decisions are being made by 17-year-olds. And we know that the idea that a 17-year-old knows exactly what they want to be when they're 25 and 30 is a pretty shaky idea. So we don't take those disciplinary decisions as gospel, but we do think about, all right, what kind of student is going to be happy here? And then there's non-academic reasons. Are they looking for a smaller school? Are they looking for residential experience? Are they looking for a particular location? And those things all go into the conversation as well.
A university president has to wear a lot of hats. You've got a great man in Mike Kennison running the athletics department, but an athletics story that has grabbed some headlines. Todd Cooley talking about just baffled by the fact that a football opponent that has been on the schedule said they're not playing this weekend, and it left a lot of people scratching their heads. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I can say that, we had a contract and we have a difference perhaps of opinion between what we believe the contract indicated and what the other institution did. I think for us that the challenge is, I always think about, we're Division II and our students need to learn something from athletics. We're student athlete driven. And so I was chatting with a disappointed football player the other day, and I said, this broke out on Sunday, and then we were chatting yesterday at an event. And, I said, well, the problem is we're now in the hands of a poll. Right? For us to make the playoffs, we have to be voted in because we don't have any more games because another institution made a choice not to play us. In life, you never want to be at the mercy of someone else's opinion. So in some ways, what this shows our students is, you got to take care of your own business so some outsider can't mess with your business. So we don't know how it's going to go. Our guys have had a good season. Our coaches had a good season, and we'll wait on Sunday like everybody else and see what the selection show brings us.
We certainly will hope for the best in that. I want to hit one last thing. This fall semester, in a lot of ways, was difficult on the Delta State campus. You had a tragedy. Just not that my opinion matters, but I thought the way you handled that and the way the university handled that were incredible. It was disappointing to see some of the outside groups that came in and tried to create their own narrative or co-opt that story. How has the Delta State community moved forward since that tragedy early in the semester?
Well, we spent a lot of time talking to our students. I mean, we were fanning out, me and my administrative team and the faculty and staff. We just were present. I mean, we had folks posting up in the student center, just chatting with students. And what really emerged was a consensus among our students. They wanted to honor Trey Reed, and they did in multiple ways. And then they wanted to go on. So we talked to them about, do you want to continue with homecoming festivities? Do you want to continue with this activity? And their thought was, yes, this community needs to keep being a community. So our students really drove the tempo and the tone of our on-campus reaction to that event. And as far as our off-campus, I can't control the off-campus. We focused in on our students, and then we focused in on the folks that Trey told us he wanted us to engage when he filled out his emergency contact. And I still continue to be in contact with his next of kin in that regard, and just tell them that we still think of them, and we're still Trey's school for as long as they want us to consider that.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
From the heart of Mississippi to the halls of Washington, D.C., this is Mornings with Richard Cross, your source for hard-hitting political insight and unfiltered truth. Now, here's more on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Salad Annie. Oh, Salad Annie. Everybody said it was a shame, 'cause her mama wasn't wicked on a chain gang. A mean, vicious woman. Every day for supper time, she'd go down by the truck patch and pick her mess of.
Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Glad to be with you this morning. Still got plenty of time to get to a number of things and to kind of follow up on some stuff, including a bunch of your messages that came in on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. That's the number if you would like to be part of the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Take advantage of great, not good, but great Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals now. Online at cspire.com. C-Spire, customer inspired. Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert. We'll go to the C-Spire text line in a second. I just want to put a bow on the conversation with Dr. Ennis. Appreciate his time this morning. President at Delta State. Enrollment up this year over year at Delta State. Good news there. And just some programs that really stand out from the crowd. You heard him talk about aviation, music production, nursing, teaching, and very much a regional school within the state of Mississippi. 81% of their student body made up of Mississippians, with a focus on the 19-county Delta region. And a lot of good things happening at Delta State. A lot of good things happening in Cleveland as well. Not just Delta State as part of that community, but that community overall. If you didn't know what we were talking about with regard to the football program, let me try and give you the quick snapshot. Delta State is trying to make the Division II playoffs for the third time in 4 years. They had one final game that was scheduled this season with an opportunity to impress the pollsters, who ultimately select the D2 teams that go to the playoff. Todd Cooley, the winningest coach in program history at Delta State, on Monday stood up at the press conference and informed the media that Saturday's regular season finale against Kentucky State has been called off, has been canceled. Todd Cooley said that Kentucky State breached the contract by deciding to play a different team this weekend, and they informed Delta State that they would not be making the trip to Cleveland. These were Todd Cooley's words. You've got Kentucky State, who signed a contract to play us July 14th. They're supposed to be coming to Cleveland this weekend to play us, and they are not. They are playing shorter because they're telling us that they've got an agreement to play the third-place team in the Conference Carolinas. Well, shorter is not the third-place team in Conference Carolinas. Cooley says he's still unclear exactly why Kentucky State has canceled the game, adding that he's been told, quote, about 14 things, close quote, by its athletics department, including the supposed deal to play shorter. Shorter is 2-8 overall, 1-5 in conference play, and they're in sixth place out of 7 teams in Conference Carolinas. So Todd Cooley explained that the contract with Kentucky State allowed for each team to reach the Division II maximum of 11 regular season games. The fine text in the contract reads that if Kentucky State were to reach the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Championship games, the two teams would not play, since the SIAC Championship is scheduled for this Saturday. Kentucky State did not make the championship. They finished third. Benedict and Albany State are playing for the SIAC Championship. Now, Delta State plays in the Gulf South Conference. Cooley alluded to the possibility that Kentucky State canceled the game to protect their playoff chances. Had they lost to Delta State, their playoff odds would go down significantly. Delta State currently has a record of 7-3. Kentucky State is 8-2, and based on the regional rankings, which serve as a framework for the playoffs, Kentucky State is number 7. Delta State is number 8 in Super Region 2. So what will the pollsters, the people that put those rankings together, do with a team who inexplicably canceled a game against another team that they were evaluating. I know what I would do. Todd Cooley says, at the end of the day, when a team says they're not coming, what are you going to do? All you can do now is go through legal action to determine what the repercussions are. Kentucky State has, by the way, not responded to a request for comment from the SuperTalk Mississippi news team.
Muck, 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 muck.
Nobody else is available to play.
Sounds like chicken to me, but I'll say it.
Yeah.
That's chicken way of doing it.
Bunch of candy heinies.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's edited for radio, by the way.
There you go. I had much better words to use that can't be used, so it's kind of like Marshall Academy. Yeah, you're seeing it at the college level, too. I mean, that's not how you do things, and if that's how you run your program, you probably ought not be running a program of young men or young women or teaching anybody anything if that's how you get ahead.
Yeah. Somebody said that sounds like what Marshall Academy did.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, I mean, Kentucky State didn't even show up. It's not like they even had guys on the sidelines in pajama pants and jerseys.
But at the end of the day, it's pretty much the same thing. They don't want to play because they get a better seeding if they don't play.
We're trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah, you got a game on the schedule. You ought to be held accountable for that game. And if you don't play it, then you shouldn't be eligible to play any other games.
Yeah.
Period. I don't care if it's the kids or the parents or the coach or whatever. They're all in it together. At whatever level. It wasn't like a coach just said, hey, we're not going to play. And all the kids were like, oh, coach, but we want to.
Yeah. All right, C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. You may have missed the conversation with Representative Robert Johnson. If you did, you certainly can go back and listen to that. A little while after the show's over, it'll be available online at supertalk.fm, and eventually will be part of the podcast, the SuperTalk, the Mornings with Richard Cross podcast. If you don't subscribe to that, would encourage you to do so. You missed part of the show, you can always go back and listen on demand on your schedule. It's free. We would appreciate that. All right, so we talked about the disconnect between Mississippi Democrats and national Democrats. And I do think there is a difference, by the way. Not with everybody. Not with everybody. You've got people that are way to the left in Mississippi. Not a ton of them, but some. But I think generally speaking, Mississippi Democrats are more in line with what you think of as like a Bill Clinton Democrat. Which, I've said this before, and I still think people have to wrap their mind around it when they hear this. 1992, Bill Clinton is a Republican today. Now, Bill Clinton would never be a Republican, obviously, but the policies of 1992 Bill Clinton are far more in line with today's Republican Party, 2025, 2026's Republican Party, than they are 2025's Democrat Party. And it's not even close. Like, it's not even a debate. And when you think about it like that, Slick Willie is a Republican, it's hard to wrap your mind around. That's not a very good Bill Clinton. So along those lines, somebody quickly pointed out, as Robert Johnson was saying, Mississippi Democrats are not the same thing as national Democrats. Somebody said Benny Thompson is 100% a national Democrat.
I mean, how many actually are willing to come on this program?
Without question.
Well, how many actually are willing that we've requested come on the program? I think you would see that many more Democrats are exactly like Robert Johnson III and Benny, that they are national Democrats here. I don't believe this, that Mississippi Democrats are not like national Democrats. I don't, for a second, because every time we have one on, this is the same thing you get.
See, here's where I disagree with you, though, on Lance, that I disagree with you on that. I don't think, and like it's hard to verify this. I don't think what most Democrats, not all, believe, what they actually believe, and what comes out of their mouth are the same thing. Now you might say, well, Richard, what difference does it make what they actually believe if what comes out of their mouth aligns with the national party? Maybe it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't. He said it. I'm not going to say otherwise, but does Robert Johnson deep down really believe Kamala Harris lost that race because of the transgender issue? I think Representative Johnson's smarter than that. I really do.
It's time to get real.
Keeping it real.
It's time for you to get real with it.
And keeping it Mississippi. Your voice for statewide and national politics.
Yes!
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. Gonna stand my ground, won't be turned around.
A little less than half an hour left with you. Not enough time to talk about all the things that we need to talk about, including your messages on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. That's the best way for you to join us. A couple of things we do need to let you know about. Gerard is on the road today. Although not too far on the road from his home base. He's going to be at the Sheraton Flowood Refuge Hotel and Convention Center for the Innovate Mississippi Accelerate Technology Conference. This event helps fuel Mississippi's tech startup business ecosystem. To learn more about the speakers, the event, and to register, not too late, go to accelerate.innovate.ms. And then on Friday, middays with Gerard will be in Oxford for the annual Ole Miss Banking and Finance Symposium. To register for the event, go to the Ole Miss alumni page online or email Dr. Ken Cyree at kbcyree, Cyree, at olemiss.edu. That's kbcyree at olemiss.edu. So all that is still on the horizon for this week. Promised we would go back to the C Spire text line. A lot of you pushing back on some of the things that Robert Johnson said, and I will say this: when there's a message like "Don't let this guy off the hook so easy," ask some harder questions. I don't think, at least not very often, that just arguing with the guest is good radio. That's just not really my style. I'm not saying that it will never, ever happen. But if I or we invite a guest on to talk about an issue, I feel like I owe them the respect of allowing them their opportunity to speak, their opportunity to talk. I want us to have a conversation. I may disagree and follow up with a question or push back on an answer, but I'm not going to do a whole lot of just interrupting a guest and going, "Oh, that doesn't make any sense. That's dumb." Like, you know, his thoughts about the boys in a girls' bathroom, locker room issue, gender stuff. I'm just going to let Representative Johnson answer that question the way he wanted to answer it. And then, you know, we had a little back and forth, a little follow-up. You hear what he's saying. I mean, me shouting a guest, Robert Johnson in this case, down, I don't think that's appropriate. So that's not really my interview style, and I would rather let people talk. Let's see here. Mackie and Vaden says, and gosh, this, I do agree with Robert from the standpoint that there always can be a slippery slope with issues. But as it exists today, especially in Mississippi, and especially with the leadership of Tate Reeves and a Republican Republican-led legislature, boys and girls sports, boys and girls bathrooms in Mississippi is not something that we're having to deal with a whole lot. Doesn't mean we couldn't get there because of national policies but it's not something that is a huge issue right now. To me, though, the idea that the campaign, the presidential election, was decided based on transgender rights is not only ridiculous, but an excuse for why Kamala Harris lost. Kamala Harris lost because she was a bad candidate that was endorsing bad policies. Open border policies, amnesty policies, not getting rid of illegals. In fact, the Democrat strategy largely has been, let's get as many illegals in the country as possible because we're going to give them the opportunity to vote, and they're going to vote for us. You know that, I know that, we all know that. I mean, Democrats can argue that if they want to, but it's really not that debatable. And we're still waiting for Kamala Harris to explain what her opportunity economy is. She had no economic plan. There was none. Other than to say, oh, we're going to create How? How are you going to do that? There's no explanation. And if there actually had been like numbers and an explanation behind it, I don't think she could have voiced in a way that was understandable what that explanation actually was. She had trouble with coherent sentences. Kamala Harris lost because she was a bad candidate, not because of a debate over boys and girls' bathrooms. That's my opinion. Obviously, Robert Johnson disagrees. That's okay. I get what Robert is saying, but Trump didn't create the bad policies. He was hired by the American people to fix the bad policies because we don't want to pay for them. A lot of the issues that the Trump administration is dealing with right now are based on policies that were put in place either by Joe Biden or by Barack Obama before him, including the Democrats' justification for keeping the government shut down for the last 7 weeks over an extension of ACA subsidies. And I don't care how many times Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer or anybody else with a D next to their name stands behind a microphone with the camera rolling in their face and says, this Republican shutdown is... There were 14 votes on the Senate side. Republicans voted to reopen the government all 14 times. It took until the 15th time before Democrats finally did, and only 8 of them did. Call it what you want. This is not a Republican shutdown that we're coming off of. But the biggest issue that Democrats were holding out for that ultimately they didn't get, even as the government reopens, is the extension of the ACA subsidies, the Obamacare subsidies. And now they're going to spin it as Donald Trump doesn't care about your health care. He doesn't care about the cost related to health care. By the way, Donald Trump is painting Democrats into a corner with the idea of taking the money for the subsidies and putting it directly into your pocket in the form of an HSA and calling it Trump care instead of Obamacare. And it's kind of putting Democrats on the defensive. Pretty interesting spot for them to be in when it comes to the health care debate. But the point is, Obamacare was passed without a single Republican vote. The deadlines for the COVID-era subsidies related to Obamacare or the ACA were put in place by Democrats. The expiration date on those subsidies were put in place by Democrats, but now it's Republicans' fault and it's Republicans' job to extend all of those policies? Make that make sense. The idea that Trump did not have a wide mandate. Pushback on the ceasefire text line about that. I mean, the mandate comes in the form of the White House, the House, and the Senate. The problem is the margins in the House and the Senate are really small. And so it makes action really difficult. But when you get the White House, the House, and the Senate, it is a mandate. But there's nuance there when you talk about, well, he's got the White House and the House and the Senate. Why isn't he getting anything done? Civics class. I mean, that's the answer, right? What did you learn in civics class? 2/3, 3/5, filibuster, House, Senate, everybody agreeing, nobody agrees.
Yeah, and they don't teach you in civics about the power of federal judges either, so.
Donald in Oxford said you got to give him credit. He's consistent and has no problem spewing his junk every time he comes on. Look, and this is not beat up Robert Johnson. I appreciate him coming on. Always enjoy the conversation. Fundamental disagreements with most of what he believes. I will say, communities in the Delta, leadership in the Delta, state level representatives, and Benny Thompson, they've got to help, not just say, why won't you bring a economic development project here? There's a reason that the places that he mentioned are drawing projects. Let's pick that up on the other side.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Breaking news to bold opinions. Richard dives into the stories shaping Mississippi and the nation. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
They were farm kids way down in Dixie, met in high school in the 60s. Everyone knew it was love from the start. One July in the midnight hour, he climbed up on the water tower, stood on the rail and painted a 10-foot heart. And John Deere Green.
Fast 3 hours this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending part of your morning. They can be crazy, it can be hectic, it can be stressful. Sometimes it is relaxing and we raise the blood pressure a little bit. But you come back day after day and it means a lot. And just anecdotally, meeting you that listen, moms that listen with kids in the car on the way to school, dads that listen with kids in the car on the way to school, and getting the inevitable comment from a child, why are we listening to this? I spoke with a mom on Saturday, Lance, and she's like, a lot of the time my phone just connects when I get in the car, but for whatever reason it hasn't lately, and we're driving along and I'm listening and I find myself kind of sticking with it, and then one of the kids is like, Mom, change the channel. What are we listening to? So, for whatever amount of time you're with us in the morning, we do appreciate it. Let's go back to where we were before the break, though, just a second ago. So Robert Johnson talking about economic development. And the area that he was highlighting, I mean, largely is Benny Thompson's district, legislative congressional district 2 in Mississippi. And Robert Johnson said, all of the economic development projects are coming to Madison and Rankin and DeSoto and Hinds County. Or not Hinds, Harrison County. And there's no doubt those areas, which, by the way, happen to be the biggest population centers in Mississippi, have aggressively pursued economic development projects. Right? They didn't sit back and go, hey, give us a project. We deserve a project. Other people are getting projects. Give us a project. No. Had a couple of things that were in their favor. Interstate highway system, population base. Those two things in their favor. And then after that, what did they do? They organized locally. The Madison County Economic Council, that may not be the exact name of it, worked tirelessly for years to win the AWS contract. DeSoto County, interstate system, fastest growing population base in the state. A lot of folks from Memphis leaving Tennessee, moving to DeSoto County. Better place to raise kids, better school system. A hub for economic development projects. Is it Aluminum Dynamics that's in Marshall County? In some ways, they benefit from their proximity to Memphis, to West Tennessee, to DeSoto County. But they're also right there on an interstate. And the Marshall County Economic Development Council in cohort with MDA and others has been able to recruit to that area. And obviously Harrison County, you got I-10 running across there. You've got all the shipbuilding. There's natural resources there. Big population area. But none of those places, and by the way, it can be done without those natural resources or the interstate or the population center. See link. So when Robert Johnson says we've got tons of land available in the Delta, yes, you are absolutely right. You do. No different than the Golden Triangle and the projects that they have brought in. But it's not sit back in the back of the classroom and raise your hand and be like, nobody gave anything to me. Nobody gave us anything. Washington County, Sunflower County, Tallahatchie County, Quitman County, Coahoma County, Tunica County. You've got to band together with some foresight and some leadership and then go get one of these projects. Say to Bill Cork at MDA, we want one of these and we're going to do whatever has to be done to bring it in. And we're going to tie Coahoma Community College to it. And we're going to put some workforce training stuff that is specific to a specific industry. And then go take your project instead of hoping that the Tooth Fairy Benny Thompson's just going to drop one in your lap. Because I got bad news for you. You're not going to find $1 or a gold coin or $2 under your pillow the next morning if you're waiting on Benny Thompson to deliver an economic development project for the Delta. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.